I am here to offer you a Q&A with me. And it was recently that I put in a post in my Facebook group asking what were your biggest relationship questions. And I got several questions, so I'm going to take the time to answer them for you. So I hope you find this useful. And please know that the questions were a little bit general, so I'll be answering in a general way. And if you want to put in more specific questions next time, I'm happy to answer in a more specific way. So here we go with your questions. The first one being, why is it hard to talk to my husband about my feelings when he can't handle that? For example, how I feel when he looks at younger women. He gets defensive and wants to argue and gets angry. Oh, Anita wrote in this question, and I really hear that that is a tricky one. So there's two kind of issues at play here. One is it's hard to talk to your husband about your feelings, which may be true in many situations. And then there's this specific topic that you're bringing up here, which could cause him more defensiveness. So not knowing you or either of you more personally and the full story here, I'm going to just, again, address this more generally. So it is true that some people are more available emotionally than others. Certain people do not feel safe talking about emotions. That was never done in their family, or maybe early on in life, they learned to shut down their emotions. So they kind of freeze up or wall up when someone starts talking about emotions. So I wanted to put that into the mix, that could be a factor between you if you are more emotionally attuned and he's not. And that could be that you're seeing that across the board, regardless of the topic. I don't know, but I wanted to bring that forward because I know you wouldn't be alone in that if that was the case for you. But then you're bringing forward an example that how he looks at younger women, and he gets defensive and wants to argue and gets angry. So this is a tough one because it really does vary with couples, and for what's going on for each individual. I'm imagining for you that you're having your feelings about what you see when you notice him looking at younger women, and whatever that is that comes up for you that you're wanting to address. And so the most important thing really is to, when you're speaking about your emotions to somebody, to really own them as, this is my feeling. This is what comes up for me. I feel angry. I feel scared. I feel sad, whatever it is. And to really make that yours instead of making it somebody else's fault that they're causing this. So the more you can separate that out, the better it will go, meaning the less likelihood you will be experiencing, the less likely you will be experiencing defensiveness from the other person. If you start accusing them of doing something wrong, then they're really likely to get defensive. So hopefully that's helpful. That if he is getting defensive, you want to look at how you're approaching the topic. It may, and then there's this topic in general, which is certainly tricky. And like I was saying, different for different couples. But I know that in our relationship, we both celebrate the beauty of other people, and neither of us feel threatened when somebody else notices another person's beauty or feels attracted to another person, because we feel really solid in our relationship. We can say, wow, we both might comment on, wow, what a gorgeous woman, or I might mention he's super handsome, or something like that, and neither of us get jealous. So that's, thank goodness, that works well in our relationship, and I know that may not be the case in other relationships. So just to mention that it also depends on what else is going on in your relationship, right, around how this kind of topic is addressed and what gets stirred up. If you already are feeling like you're not getting enough attention, he's not attracted to you, he's not showing affection, maybe he's already betrayed you by being with other women, or maybe he's lied to you. then of course that's going to be more of a trigger for you. And it's really important to address these things. And I think we have another question here that relates to that. So again, this is a pretty complex issue, but hopefully some of that has been helpful for you. And please feel free to come back with a response or another question about that. I'm going to move on. So let's see. Here's the next question that is related to this first one. How to break a wall you created after your partner had an affair? How do you rebuild without feeling anger towards him? Gosh, that is such a great question. And it's such tricky territory there, because you were betrayed, and that is hard to overcome, because what has to happen is trust has to be rebuilt. And when somebody has an affair, they've breached your trust. And so it does take a while for some of us, some more than others, to rebuild trust. So it really depends on, both of your background together. Like, was everything going great until that happened, and then this happened, and then, you had to recover? Or were there already certain situations that led up to this where there was already less trust in the relationship? So that would be a question I have for you. And sometimes I would say most likely it's going to be harder to rebuild trust if you already have a history of betrayal in your own life before this partner. So if you already had a partner who had affairs, or your parents were having affairs and you witnessed that, or maybe your parents betrayed you in some way, or somebody else did, then you already have this wound of people betray me, people aren't trustworthy. And so you bring that forward into your next relationships. And then you feel more on alert about that. You feel more scared of that. You are, and any further betrayals feel more painful and harder to overcome. So I want to just add all that into the mix to say that it really depends on how much you are already working with in your previous life before this partner, and your life with this partner before the affair. But how do you rebuild trust? How do you rebuild, we said, without feeling anger? I don't know if that's a fair sort of requirement that you're demanding of yourself, that you shouldn't feel angry, because I think anyone would feel angry if they got betrayed like that. So maybe that's not fair to you to think that you shouldn't feel angry. And on the flip side of that, when you do have a lot of anger that is hard to overcome, then you need support. You need support in working through the anger, and because maybe the anger is related to this incident, but it could also be rooted in earlier life stuff, like I mentioned, that could make it harder to overcome. So that's where it's really helpful to have a professional support you through what's going on, and kind of pull away the layers and to see what else might be underneath that, if it seems like really difficult to move on. And I'm going to say again, for most people, it would still be really difficult. It does take time, once again, to rebuild trust. And so the other thing about rebuilding trust is that someone has to really prove to you that they're trustworthy. And so that takes time. They have to show you again and again until you really start to believe it. And they have to be patient with you in that process, as you have to be patient with yourself and with them. So those are a few keys. I hope that is helpful for you, Wendy. And let me know if you have a follow-up question or response to what I've had to say. So somebody says, in response to my question was, do you have any questions about how to have a healthy relationship? And somebody says communication and conflict resolution. That's again, a broader, I don't know if that's really a question, but yeah, that's a broad thing to cover here. So if you want, a deeper response from me, maybe ask a more specific question. But I just do want to let you know that I am about to teach my free communication training right here inside this group. And that does start March 18th. So look for a link to sign up for that so you can get the details, and there'll be prizes and ways to really engage with the material so you actually learn it and can really implement it in your life. So hopefully that will answer some of your communication questions and conflict resolution questions. Here's another question. This one's from Erica. How do I break old unconscious habits adopted from my parents? Again, that's a pretty broad one. There's so many habits that you could have adopted, and we all do, by the way. Nobody's gets a free ride and doesn't adopt unconscious, unhealthy patterns, because most people have them and pass them on. And children are like sponges, and they just absorb what's happening in their environment. So you're going to pick up on how people are behaving and mimic their behavior, and integrate whatever. And there's a word I'm forgetting right now, but integrate whatever they tell you and make it true, and believe what they say, even if it's not true. So we have to give ourselves a pass for being children, having been children, and having not known any better and not having any other way than to take on what was happening in our environment, and also make it sort of about us and make ourselves wrong, and things that we do as children to kind of think there's something wrong with us, even if nobody said that to us. And of course, if people did say that to you, then it goes much deeper, and it's probably going to be even harder to overcome something like that. And that being said, you say, how do I break free of these unconscious patterns and habits? So how you do that, I can't give you a quick fix here, because it's complicated. We are complex beings. There's lots of things going on. But because we do internalize, that's the word I was thinking of, we internalize what people tell us. We make it mean something's wrong with me. It's my fault. I'm not good enough. I must be, broken or a failure, or whatever these things that we tell ourselves. We really need to work on that level, usually, to get healed, to get through these unhealthy patterns, because often the patterns start with our beliefs about ourselves, how we feel about ourselves, our kind of base level of operation of like, this is me, this is how I sort of do life, this is what I think about things. And so when we have a certain way of thinking and believing and operating in the world, which we all do, of course, and a lot of that isn't true or isn't helping anything and is creating more drama or more unhappiness, then we want to start looking at that and seeing, what can I unearth that, isn't helping me? What beliefs can I change? And changing beliefs I work with a lot with my clients, and it's not just an outside in process, like, hey, just don't believe that anymore. Use some affirmations and everything will be fine. It doesn't usually work that way from the outside in. It's got to be more of an inside out process. And it's also got to be more of a body centered process, which is why I do so much. All my work is body centered. It's somatic, because you have to integrate this material into your being. Your beliefs, your emotions are somatically oriented. They occur inside your being. They have a biological process to them. They're not just up here in your head. So if you just work up here, you're not going to get to the root of it. So hopefully that's helpful and makes sense, that in order to really change the unconscious patterns, you have to work from the inside out and on a somatic level. And you probably need to get some support from somebody who's a professional who knows how to do that with you, so that you're really kind of, I think, of pulling away the threads of the knots that are inside of you and starting to untangle these old beliefs and patterns that are kind of all intertwined inside. And as you do that and you work with the body level and the somatic experience that you're having, that's when things start to shift and you get a new sense of yourself. And that sense of yourself isn't only a concept, but it's an embodied sense of yourself. And as you get that, you start to feel like a new person. You start to reorganize who you are and how you respond to life. And that's when the changes are real and they're lasting. That's a big answer to your question. I hope that you're following. Please, anyone, feel free to come back and leave a comment below with any questions that you might be having or responses to this information. I'm going to move on to another sort of a question from Teresa here. It says, when you're just too tired to give anything. And I think that there might be a question in there, which might be, what do you do if you're just too tired to give anything? And I would say the best thing you can do, if that's the truth, is to let that be the truth and maybe communicate that's the truth. Like if somebody's wanting from you, you have a child, a teenager, a partner, whoever it might be, who's wanting something from you and you're just too tired to give anything, why not just say that? You know what? I really want to give to you right now. I want to support you. I want to respond to you, but I'm exhausted. So can we take a rain check on that and come back to that tomorrow? Something like that. So you give yourself a pass if you just don't have it in you. And you, at the same time, don't just leave them high and dry. You respond as best you can in the moment and let them know you're there, you're not forgetting them, and you want to respond from a place of more liveliness and presence in yourself. And most people, unless it's super urgent, will be happy to have you want to come back from a place where you are more able to be responsive, able to connect, and all the things that you can do when you're not totally drained. So I hope that's helpful, and I hope you give it a try. And at the same time, give yourself a break sometimes when you just can't give anymore. Hopefully most people get that experience and can also give you a pass. So those are the questions I had, and I really appreciate you asking the questions, and I think we'll have to do this again. I love the Q&A. So keep coming back and put any more questions below or any responses that you have to this material. And if you're listening on YouTube and you want to join the Facebook group, you can go. I'll put a link in the description below so you can find this group and read the questions there. And if you do want to leave a question in YouTube, I will find that and respond to you. And if you haven't been following me on YouTube, please like and subscribe to this channel so you'll get notifications about upcoming videos. Thanks again for watching, and look for my free communication training, and I hope to see you there. Bye-bye for now.